Every book of the Bible is a decoder for seasons that correspond to it. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the prophetic significance of the book of Leviticus, the third book of the Bible. Every book of the Bible has a reason for being where it is. Every book of the Bible, the books of the Bible are not in alphabetical order. The book of the Bible are not in chronological order. The books of the Bible are where they are because of the seasons they speak to. That's the reason. That's where they are. Now, yeah, sometimes when we learn, that, okay, these are historical books, these are prophetic books, and these are poetic books, very fine. But beyond that, the books of the Bible are where they are because of the seasons they speak to. So when you come into any season, you find out the book of the Bible that corresponds to that season, you're going to see the similarity or the correspondence between that season and what that book of the Bible is saying. This is a mystery in God's word, but God is opening our eyes to see it because it belongs to our season to see these things. It belongs to our season. It belongs to our time to come into this understanding. Now, so I'm going to be talking about the prophetic significance of the third book of the Bible. The third book of the Bible is Leviticus, and it is named after the third son of Jacob, Levi. And the people who serve in this book came from the tribe of Levi. The priests and the Levites are from the tribe of Levi. That's where they come from. And so this book doesn't have much stories. This book is where it is to help us to know how to go through the third season. The third season could be the third day. The third season could be the third week. The third season could be the third year in every 7 years. The third season could be the third 7 years in every 49 years. The third season could be the third century in every 7 centuries. It could also be the third 7 centuries. So the book of Leviticus was designed by the one who inspired the word of God to guide people when they come into third seasons. There are about 4 things, at least 4 things. I mean, there could be more, but at least there are about at least 4 things that the book of Leviticus will help us to understand about when it comes to how to deal or how to navigate the third season. The book opens with offerings. As soon as you open the book of Leviticus, it opens with offerings. The offerings that we're going to give, that Israel was supposed to bring before the Lord, the offerings. Now, what that shows is that when you come into a third season, do not trivialize offerings. Don't trivialize offerings. The book of Leviticus opens with the burnt offering. From the burnt offering, the entire, then you go to the grain offering. That's in chapter 2. Then in chapter 3, you go to the peace offering. And then in chapter 4, the sin offering, the trespass offering. The first 5 chapters just deal with offerings. So that tells us that in the third season, you don't trivialize offerings. offerings. The third season is a time to bring before the Lord offerings. But first of all, the offering of our lives. The Levites were like an offering to God. They were offerings to God. God said, in place of the firstborn, I have taken the tribe of Levi. They belong to me. So the Levites were like the offering of Israel, a kind of offering of Israel to God. So that's the first thing we learn from the book of Leviticus concerning dealing with the first season. The second thing is about devotion. Devotion to God. Devotion. Devotion. Devotion to God. The priests, the Levites, were dedicated men. They don't own themselves. They belong to God, as it were. Yeah, all Israel belongs to God, but these ones, God has said, I've taken these ones. They were dedicated men to serve the Lord. That's their business, to serve God. That gives us an idea that in this season, service to God is very important. God recruits people in the third season. Yes. He recruited Moses in Exodus chapter 3. He recruited Samuel in 1 Samuel chapter 3. He recruited Jesus of Nazareth in Matthew chapter 3 and in Luke chapter 3. God recruits people in the third season. Adam and Eve missed it. God was on his way to come to recruit them for his service. But the serpent went ahead and deceived them. But God still came. He said, Adam, where are you? God came for recruitment. But they were not there. They were not there. So in the third season, offerings and sacrifices are not to be taken lightly. In 1 Kings chapter 3, Solomon had an encounter with God. How did that encounter happen? It was after Solomon had offered 1,000 burnt offerings to God. 1,000 burnt offerings to God. And then that night, the Lord appeared to him in a dream of the night and spoke to him. Offerings. Offerings. In 2 Kings chapter 3, the king of Moab offered his eldest son, his son that should succeed him. He offered him as sacrifice. And what was the outcome? The war turned against his enemies. In the Ezra chapter 3, they erected the altar and offered sacrifices. So it tells us that sacrifices, offerings are important in the third season. John 3, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. It's a time to offer. And then dedication and devotion to God. So like I tell you, God recruits men. Solomon had been anointed king, but actually, God recruited him in 1 Kings chapter 3. Ask what I will do for you. And he said, Give me an understanding heart. And God, as it were, fell in love with him. Said, I'm happy you didn't ask for long life. You didn't ask for wealth. You didn't ask for the life of your enemies. But you asked for wisdom. I will give you, and I will give you other things. So God recruits people in this season. The other thing that this season, we learn about this season is the place of focus and concentration. Focus and concentration. I'm going to take you back to what God did on the third day of creation. On the third day of creation, God said, let the waters be gathered together in one place. God likes focus, concentration in the third season. One place. One place. Vegetation is a one-place creation. Trees don't move about. Grasses grow from where they are planted. So they teach us things about the third season. Third season, people, when you're in the third season, you pray to God to stay focused. In Philippians chapter 3, Paul said, one thing I do, not three things, not two things, one thing I do. Forgetting those things which are behind, I press forward towards the mark of the high calling. So one thing. The ground, the dry ground doesn't move about. That's how we can have locations. Say, okay, where are you located? If the ground moves, there will be no location. By the time you say, I'm living in ABC Street, by the time you go there, the ABC Street has shifted to another place. So in the third season, the creatures of the third season are one place creatures. Where you see a mountain today, you come back 10 years, the mountain is still there. The ground does not travel. Trees and plants don't travel. They stay in one place. And so when you come into the third book of the Bible, God told the tribe of Levi, your place is in the sanctuary. You will not be business people. You will not be soldiers. You will not be any other thing. Your place is in the sanctuary. So that's what we learn, that in the third season, we learn to stay focused. Sometimes it takes management to make that to happen. It takes management. When you find a tree, that tree will always be what it is. It doesn't change. One place. Focus. Specialization. So God told the tribe of Levi, no, you are not going to do any other thing. You have to choose one thing. So I was saying that sometimes it takes management. If you leave the ground alone, the ground will produce all kinds of things. But when a farmer comes, the farmer tells the ground, this is what you are going to do. You'll be a farm. You'll be a mango plantation. You'll be a banana, field or plantation. You'll be an orange plantation or whatever. That's what you're going to produce. Or you're going to be an estate. You give it one thing to do. Now, so we see offering and sacrifice. We see devotion to God, holiness unto God. And we also see focus. And then lastly, service. Service. You can't talk about the third and not talk about service. It's there, the third day of creation. The dry ground is the servant of all. Since the third day of creation, dry ground have been serving man. Whatever we want, the dry ground is available. You want to build a house? I'm available, serving you. That's where we walk on, that's where we live, that's where we move, that's where we do all our operations. And the dry ground often does not complain, except when humans begin to abuse the ground. The trees, vegetation, another great servant. That's where we get our food. That's where our medicines come from. That's where we get the wood we build, furnitures. That's where we get it, from vegetation. Our furnitures, our houses, things, the food, the medicines, the paper. So these are the greatest servants. The servants, they do not live for themselves. No tree lives for itself. They serve us to beautify environment, to give us food, to give us medicine, to give us whatever you want. If you like, you cut them down. You like, you keep them. They're just there to serve you. So these 4 things are things we learn from the 3rd book of the Bible. 1, sacrifice and offerings. Number 2, devotion to God, holiness unto God. Number 3, focus. And number 4, service. When these 4 things are there, then you are equipped for the 3rd season. You're equipped for the 3rd season. So I pray for you that, this understanding will help you, that when you come into a 3rd season or the season of a 3rd leader, maybe you can add a 5th thing, communion with God. Communion. The 3rd book of the Bible shows us that in the 3rd season, we need to keep the way between heaven and earth open. That's what the sacrifices do. That's what the offerings are there for. That's what prayer does, to make sure that sin does not take over, that nothing blocks access to the heaven, access between heaven and earth. So you can put these 5 things together: communion with God, devotion, to God, service to men. That's what the people there to help, to serve, their fellow men. The priests and Levites were there to serve their fellow men, as well as serving God. Then the offerings, and then, so put these 5 things together, and you are equipped for the 3rd season. I pray God bless you. Share the video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't. God bless you.